Hello, this is Mary Jo Fox, and I'd like to share some information about MTSS and Maze. What I'd like to share with you is the role of Maze in the Olathe's MTSS process, what it is, how to administer and score it, and then how to use the data. One of the things that I know you're interested in is where do you find the Maze resource? What you'll do is you'll go to the MTSS website and then go click on the sidebar that has MTSS interventions. If you are going to any of the interventions that are supporting comprehension, you'll find it there. So for example, in QAR, you'll find it down where it says the Maze Progress Monitoring Tool. You'll see the first bullet, it's the directions. Then you'll see them listed out by the next one will be the baseline passages, and then they'll have the passages for grade levels 2 through 5. Now, what is the purpose of MTSS in our Olathe MTSS process? Well, our purpose is to have a consistent progress monitoring tool that we could use with all of our comprehension interventions, because many times our students go from maybe visualizing to maybe retelling to then maybe QAR. So we want to have a progress monitoring tool that can be used with all of them. And so with this, what you are going to be doing is you're going to use the maze with all of the comprehension MTSS interventions, and you're going to use it as a weekly progress monitoring tool in addition to the progress monitoring tool that's found in the intervention. What you'll notice on the recording sheet for each of the interventions is a column has been added so you can include your the spot for you to record your maze information. This is what it looks like. You've got where you're putting your weekly progress monitoring down, and then on that same line you can go and include the maze information. Well, what is the maze? What the maze is a progress monitoring tool utilizing the closed procedure. And so what it is grade level passages with words omitted that the students have to choose from 3 words and find the word that best fits. For example, right below is an example where it goes, once upon a time there was a merchant whose wife died, leaving him with 3 daughters. The 2 older daughters were good looking, and then the student has to choose between the next 3 words, but, stand, or then, to see what would make the most sense. So it would be the 2 older daughters were good looking, but very disagreeable. So they would circle but and continue on for the rest of the passages. Now, you could see an example right over here. So what the students do is they read. When they get to the 3 words, they circle the one that they think best fits. Now, how do you administer it? Well, first of all, something I know that you'll be very happy to know is that because students read it silently, it can be done with all of the students in the MTSS group at the same time. So again, I know time is our currency. It will only use 3 minutes of our time. Probably gets to closer to 4 minutes by the time you get started and finished. But really, it's a small portion of time and it can be administered to everyone. What you do is explain to students that they'll be reading a story silently and will have 3 minutes to read the story. You'll tell them that some of the words are replaced with a group of words and that your job is to circle the one word that makes the most sense. Only one word is correct. And then what you'll do is you'll model it and practice it with the practice test. So for example, it's right over here, the practice test. The dog, and then you have to choose from apple, broke, or ran. What makes the most sense? I'm going to circle ran because it makes the most sense that the dog ran after the cat. I then keep on reading, and I read the cat ran. I think fast would make the most sense. The cat ran fast up the hill. And then I continue reading. The dog barked at the cat. So then what my story would say was, the dog ran after the cat. The cat ran fast up the hill. The dog barked at the cat. Now, it's going to be important, though, for you to do that modeling with the students so they can understand it. But then, which passages do you use? In general, I would use the grade level passage for the grade level that you're on. The time when I would have an exception to that is if the student is unable to read the words at grade level text. But you'll know that from all of your data that you have collected and what you know about the students. If that is the case, then I would move down to a lower level, the one that's matched with the student's actual reading level. The text is available for grades 2 through 8. But of course, we would never go above the grade because all of the students that we're working with are students who have challenges with their reading. Where do you locate those grade level passages? Just where we had said before, that it's on the MTSS website. We go to the MTSS interventions and then choose one of the comprehension interventions. Towards the middle of the page where it says Maze Progress Monitoring Tool, you'll see that we have them for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5, where there's the student copy that you'll print off and then the answer key for you. Now, what they ask you to do is to start out getting a baseline score. But how do you do that? First thing you do is identify the grade level of the text that you're going to be using. Print that off for each student, and then you're going to administer the directions that we just talked about for passages 1, passage 2, and passage 3. Again, following those maze directions. What you'll do then is score passage 1, 2, and 3, and the one that will be considered their baseline is the one that is the median score. So, and that will be what you're going to record on for the maze baseline score. So for example, if for passage 1 the students scored a 7, they had 7 correct responses. For passage 2 they had scored a 9, they had 9 correct answers. And for passage 3 they scored a 6, they had 6 correct answers. Then we would go and choose 7 because 7 is the median score. And then I would record that on the first line for my maze passages. And that would be my baseline. How do I give the actual assessments? Well, after you have modeled the process using that practice passage, you distribute the passage, and you say to students, when I say begin, I want you to read the story silently. You'll have 3 minutes to read the story and complete the task. Listen carefully to the directions. Some of the words in the story are replaced with a group of 3 words. Your job is to circle the one word that makes the most sense in the story. The teacher then says begin and will start the timing of it. After 3 minutes, the teacher will say stop. Put your pencils down. The teacher then will collect the passages. If you have a student who finishes before the time limit, collect the student's maze passage and record the student's time on the student passage. How do I score it? You're going to score it using the scoring template. You mark a slash through any incorrect responses, and the student scores the number of correct answers. So when I say the scoring template, that means the answer key. So you've got the student piece that the student marks their answers on, and then there's another one where out of the 3 choices, 1 is bolded, and so you will know that's the correct one. What you're going to do after you make your slashes is go and count up the number of words that the students circled correctly. That is going to be the student score, and you record that on the MTSS intervention progress monitoring sheet along with the other weekly progress monitoring that went with that intervention. So the first thing you do using that answer key is you put a slash through the ones that are incorrect. Then you go and you count up the ones that are correct. And then you go and you record it on the recording sheet. How do we use the data? Well, the first thing is that baseline score is done for the first MTSS comprehension intervention of the school year. And then a Maze passage is done every week as a part of that progress monitoring. So you've got that recorded. If their second MTSS comprehension intervention is used in that same school year, the Maze passage is used as one of those progress monitorings, but you don't need to administer another baseline. You just keep going from where you left off. So you look at which Maze passage was last used in the previous intervention and then use the next passage. Because the students are going to be reading the passages silently, it's fine if the students in the group have different passages. So for example, if you have one student who has already been a part of an intervention, and let's say they're starting at the Maze they have, in their last intervention, they had the Maze passage 8. Well, then on this one, you're going to be starting with the Maze passage 9. Whereas some of the other students, if they didn't have an intervention, you would be starting with them with their baseline on that day. What you're going to be doing, though, is keep that recording page from the first intervention with the second intervention so you could see that same progress monitoring tool and use it to see if the student is making progress. So for example, right here, I've got from QAR, I've got that we started out, and for our baseline it was passage 1 and the student scored a 7. I then have for each of the weeks, the other 5 weeks, what their Maze passage was and what their score is. And then when I'm going to if I'm doing summarizing the main idea, what I would be doing is starting now with passage 9 and I record the score. What I'm looking for is the score on the Maze passages, is the score increasing? So I can see, are the interventions having a positive effect on the students? So I want to be able to look at both pieces. How are they doing in the intervention? And then how are they doing in general with the comprehension? What I'm hoping that you left this screencast with is understanding a little bit more about Maze and MTSS, why we're doing it, and how to go about administering it to your students. Again, if you have any questions, please contact Mary Jo Fox. She is an email or a phone call away, and I would always love to help you with whatever you need. Thank you so much for your time.